One of the most brutal scams in Magic the Gathering history just occurred, causing the instantaneous loss of over $10,000. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, today we have a tale of tragedy. This is a truly unfortunate situation. Now, obviously, whenever anybody gets scammed, it's a very bad thing. Scams on this level, however, are pretty much unprecedented. It's pretty difficult to lose $10,000 on a Magic scam instantaneously. So let me break down the details for you. And I'll be real, honestly, the situation made me feel a little bit sick to my stomach. Now, admittedly, that is probably because I feel like the person involved is like one of my YouTube friends, okay? Because we're talking about the dude from Open Boosters. So if you know Open Boosters, it's an old school opening channel. I've been a fan of it so long that actually the first parody video I ever did on this channel of another YouTube channel was of his channel. Now, all those parody videos are gone because YouTube's got rules and, you look like a bullion, because some people can't tell the difference between a love note to somebody and a video that's actually supposed to be mean-spirited. But I made a very playful, fun video. Regardless, I don't want to get off on a tangent too much, even though that is what I do here. So, Open Boosters is known as the guy who opens boosters, and more specifically, opens really, really old school, awesome, hard to find stuff. We're talking like beta level properties here, right? And beta in this case is the second print run of Magic the Gathering altogether. Printed back in 1993, like alpha and beta cards are the holy grails of Magic the Gathering cards. These are the top, like the absolute best things that you can get. Now, Open Boosters, who, just so you know where to go if you want to watch the footage of what I'm about to talk about, Open Boosters and Edwin the Magic Engineer have come together in this weird sort of human Voltron. I don't know which one's the head, but either way, they've come together into this weird human Voltron where they've created a fun little channel where they're just messing around, having a great time. I advise you check the channel out because it is actually a lot of fun. They're literally just kicking back and they love like old school Magic. So, Open Boosters and Edwin have gone wholeheartedly into this, and as a result, Open Boosters decided to release his new beta deck opening on the Unhinged Magi channel. Now, the value of this deck, the cost of this deck was approximately $10,600. There was a little bit, like a couple extra dollars on top of that. I can't remember the exact amount, but if you go and take a look at the newest video on the Unhinged Magi channel, you can see the full amount for yourself. So we're dealing with an old beta starter deck here, right? Now, normally on Open Booster's channel, he will open one beta booster pack because these things are insanely expensive. Clearly, when a deck costs over $10,000, you know it is a very pricey premium product. So instead of a 15-card booster, we have a 60-card starter deck. So for those of you who don't know, in the older days of Magic the Gathering, starter decks were just completely randomized. Now you will get things like precons, right? Where you have a particular theme behind it. Here's your red, white turkey tickler deck, you know what I mean? And you're all, oh, look at all the different cards that tickle turkeys. But in the old days, it was absolutely random, right? You would just get a pile of whatever, which in a way was charming, but in another way could be fairly annoying. So we're dealing with a deck of randomized cards. It's a 60-card deck, and there's only going to be a couple of rares, and the starter decks were pretty rare light. In this case, the deck we're going to talk about has 2 rares in it. But it became evident as they progressed through the deck that there was significant problems with this deck. First of all, and the most glaring issue with the deck, is the fact that there are literally no basic lands. Now, that doesn't really happen. Admittedly, when it comes to old school Magic products, there was more randomness. They didn't have the printing processes and like algorithmic printing down with their track printing to the same degree. So you would end up with error products sometimes, right? But there's just too many points of data that point towards this being an absolute scam for anybody to really come down on the side of this being a legitimate deck. So this deck should have had about 20-ish basic lands, something along those lines, right? If a few were missing here or there, give or take, okay, that's fine. This deck had 0 basic lands in it, okay? So all the lands are missing. Now, remember what I said. We're talking about alpha, the beta level stuff being the holy grail. So these beta basic lands, they all have significant value. They are not like the lands you would get out of the new set. You get some Zendikar basic lands or whatever, you're like, who cares about these? They don't matter. Write on them, use them as proxies or whatever. But beta lands, first of all this stuff is mega scarce. They didn't print a ton of it to begin with. And back in the day, we didn't play with sleeves. We didn't protect our cards. So cards would get just beat and destroyed. So beta lands, even if they're beat up, have value, right? But like good condition ones have significant value, right? Like for all of the lands together, wouldn't be surprised if that added up to a few $1,000s bare minimum, right? Just all those lands are gone. And that is very, very suspicious, right? Then as they progress through all of the cards in the deck, there are literally no value commons, uncommons. There are literally no cards that are worth any money really on the secondary market. Now, I'll put a little asterisk up there because at this point, every beta card has some value on the secondary market, but because we're dealing with such an expensive object in an old school set, the value level of cards that have even some value is so much higher that the value we're left with the cards that are in there is so negligible that you just write them off. They are literally the worst of the worst. Picture like Magic Draft chaff from a recent set. Stuff like that. Cards you know that are absolutely worthless, where literally the only value for this card is just because it's old. It's just that old. And that does not bring that much of a premium price tag, as we will see when we take a look overall at the value that he roughly got out of the deck there. So there was pretty much nothing of value in the entire deck. And then you get to the rares, okay? And this is where it gets really insane. Because the rares, there's 2 rares in this deck, and both of them were laces, okay? We're talking Chaos Lace and Thought Lace. Now, people have broken down, before we even start about breaking down, let me show you Thought Lace, just so you understand what a lace is and you understand how awful this rare is. So Thought Lace is a 1 blue interrupt. I mean, interrupts aren't a thing anymore, so this would technically now be an instant. But back in the old days of Magic, you had interrupt spells, which moved faster than instants. So Thought Lace changes the color of one card being played or already in play to blue. That's all it does. It changes a spell that's being cast to a blue spell, or a permanent in play to a blue permanent. That's it. It doesn't confer any abilities, and that's a rare, okay? So this was the big, like, rare of Magic's history. In the very beginning, the laces were the absolute worst rares that exist. Now, what you need to understand is, theoretically, a deck can, you can have a deck with, like, multiple jank rares in it, but here's the thing. People have already, people who know way more about old school Magic, like Tavis, things like that, have sat down and calculated out beta sheets and how all the print runs work and the sequencing of cards and things like that. And according to the information that exists, it should be impossible for a Chaos Lace and a Thought Lace to be the 2 rares in this deck. Now, they're the most worthless cards in the entire set. So between those 2 rares, they are both $80 rares each. And I'm talking I'm pretty sure that's Canadian prices that I'm talking about. And we're talking about 10,000 American dollars. So actually, let's knock that down. They're about $60 each. So the 2 rares that he got were worth $120. The rest of the deck, which had every value card, things like a lightning bolt or whatever else that could have been in there, had all been stripped out of it, and all the basic lands have been taken out. So essentially, and I'm estimating here, there's probably about $400 worth of cards in there at most. And that's me being generous, okay? It's probably not even that much. I know that in the future, Open Boosters is going to put out a video update about this on his channel. So if you want more details about that specifically, if you want to see the video, go and watch it. I'll tell you a couple of things before you watch it. First of all, know that it's going to be an absolute gut punch if you know anything about old school product. You are not going to enjoy seeing this happen to somebody. Secondly, Open Boosters is a maniac. And when you watch him open the deck, there's going to be a point where he takes this sealed starter deck. By the way, it was resealed by somebody. So he takes this sealed starter deck, and how he opens these decks, which still blows my mind. These old school decks will have a rule book in the middle of it, right? So he just takes his X-Acto knife and just jams it into the rule book. And the whole time you're watching him do this, you're like, oh no, dude, you're gonna cut the cards, dude, you're gonna cut your hand. So just bear in mind that when it gets to the point where he pulls out the blade and starts cutting into the rule book, woo, your anxiety levels, man, it moves me right up where I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, it's funny because he'll wear plastic gloves to protect the card quality, like to protect the quality of the cards so they can be graded and all that, but then he'll just take it and just jam it in the side, like, woo, that is absolutely crazy to watch. So, this is essentially a repack scam, and according to the information that was provided in the video, when it was purchased, the seller said that they couldn't guarantee that it hadn't been tampered with, and that does possibly bring up the, I mean, first of all, it might be that the person who was selling it was a scammer. We don't know. It could also just be that's placed in the terms and conditions to absolve them in case somebody else had scammed it, because it's impossible to verify with really old school Magic product. They don't have the new level of protection that products do now. Like, I actually got scammed with a repack box once, and that was before the days of them being able to like put the Wizards stamping patterns on them, whatever. Now they put the logo all over the plastic wrap. If you've ever wondered why a brand new box of Magic cards comes with that little Wizards logo stamped all over it, that's because if they try and open the plastic and reseal it, it will stretch it and cause, you know, basically noticeable imperfections that will give you a heads up that this situation is one where you're getting stuck with a repack box. And this has happened to me a few different times. I mean, I lucked out with the one repack box I got in that it had been tampered with so far in the past that things had changed so much that basically what happened was a bunch of the cards they had taken out of the packs ended up not being worth very much, because you could tell what was missing. Particular uncommons had been taken and whatever, and then extra copies of particular rares had been shoved in. So I'm opening a box and I'm getting 5 copies of the same rare, but luckily for me, that rare had become a commander staple, and so it actually had more value on the secondary market. It's literally the kind of card that if they were repacking it at the time, they would have kept for themselves, right? So my repacking experiences are nowhere on this level. There's nothing to salvage from this. The man literally had $10,000 obliterated in the blink of an eye. I watched the video and I was just like, oh, I feel so awful watching this. And I left a comment saying it's the most brutal repack that I have ever seen. And apparently it was so devastating to open boosters. Edwin told me through like responding to my comment over on the video that he was literally in tears after this. And I can understand that, dude. It's $10,000, right? For me, that's like 2 years worth of groceries, bro. There's no way I could even take a hit like that, right? But I mean, obviously he's got a ton of Magic cards. He's got the money to buy the deck, but that doesn't change the gut punch that you feel when you get hosed on that level, right? Because not only are you losing money, you're also losing faith to a degree in your fellow man, other Magic players, right? Like, it's an absolutely brutal scenario. The whole thing is just absolutely wild. Like, it's $10,000 gone in the blink of an eye with no recourse. At this point, I mean, the seller can just go, no. Like I said before, though, Open Boosters is going to do an update video on it, and it might turn out that the seller feels bad about it or whatever, wasn't responsible, and may offer some kind of restitution. I really don't know. I just feel really, really bad for Open Boosters right now, man. Honestly, he took a break from making content for a brief period of time, and I'm guessing that's probably why. When you get hit with something that devastating, you're probably just like, bro, I don't want to, you know what, I don't even want to deal with Magic right now. Like, I've gotten really upset over, I've gotten really upset over losing $5, all right? That's a big loss to me. So I can't even comprehend what it's like to feel a loss on that level, especially when you have the excitement of possibility, all the amazingness that you could get out of these decks. Anyways, this is literally the biggest scam that I can think of, especially when it comes to sealed Magic products. So head on over to the Unhinged Magi channel, check out the video. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Throw some support their way, you know, say some nice things in the comments. Let's help Open Boosters feel better. I mean, even go over to his main channel if you want to too, although it seems like he's mostly setting up shop on Unhinged Magi. That's all up to you. Anyways, I have to get going, my friends, so list of my patrons scrolling on by. Thanks for supporting the channel. Head on over again, like I said, go check those guys out, all right? And I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Goodbye for now.